Hey there, comic fam. Welcome back to Climbing Comics. In today's sesh, we'll be going over the first appearance of Invincible. Hey there, comic fam. Welcome back to Climbing Comics. In today's sesh, we'll be continuing my first appearance series with Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. With Amazon coming out with a series recently, the rise of indie superheroes, as well as this is one of the more notable works of Robert Kirkman's. After Walking Dead, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to take a look at Invincible. In the first issue, we even get to see the origin story of his name. Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, had a couple of first partial appearances and then his full first appearance in Invincible 1. His partial first appearances were in Savage Dragon 102, Tech Jacket number 1, as well as Noble Causes, Family Secrets number 3, all coming out in 2002, but Invincible, the actual main storyline, came out in 2003. What I'll be going over today is this exactly. So for Invincible number 1 coming out in January 2003 by Image Comics, it was created by Robert Kirkman as well as Cory Walker and artist Ryan Ottley. So let's jump straight into his storyline. The first page is a really cool whole page panel where you can see Invincible holding this guy who has a bomb strapped to his chest, and he's flying in somewhat looks to be the Arctic. He then throws the guy up in the air away from himself before he blows up, and he flies back. He smashes back to the snow and he says to himself, if I'm gonna keep this up, I'm gonna give myself a heart attack. So you kind of jump back 4 months earlier. You see his mom banging on the door saying that he's gonna be late for school. He's essentially in the bathroom taking care of business, but he's like, geez, mom, I'm reading a comic book. Give me a minute. And she's like, you need to stop reading comics. You're going to be late. Let's go. About a couple minutes later, you see him run downstairs. He's actually 10 minutes early before he has to leave. So he's grabbing some food and is asking his mom, oh, have you seen Dad? Did he come back last night? And he asks her to turn on the TV. You see the TV reporter essentially talking about this dragon-like creature in Taiwan, and he's fighting what is there in their world, this superhero named Omni-Man. You see a lot of the eyewitnesses seeing this raging fight going on for 10 plus hours, destroying parts of Taiwan. So now you see Mark saying, oh, well, now you know where he is. Right then and there, you realize that this is a superhero family. His father is Nolan Grayson, aka Omni-Man, and his mom is Deborah. What she says is, I hope he brings something back nice for me. I've never been to Taiwan. You jump into Mark going to school, and you see his buddy, Will, basically ask him if he's going to be able to hang out after school. But unfortunately, Mark has to work at this burger joint. You jump to the next scene where Mark is essentially throwing out the trash at this burger joint, and as he's tossing the trash into the garbage can, it flies up way deep into the air. And all he says to himself is, it's about time. So you kind of have an inkling that, hey, this is going to be a superhero family. Next is kind of just a really fun family type dinner thing where I guess you would assume the father would kind of fly in, and he essentially does. He was kind of late, but he said he had to deal with an enchanted flood in Egypt. And she asked, did he take care of the dragon? He's basically, as he's chewing his food, he's trying to speak, and he basically said that once he figured out who was controlling the dragon, it was quite easy. The hard thing was just taking care of the civilians and everything around them and keeping everyone safe. What she says next is, the publisher called. He wants you to check in and see how you're doing on that next book. I told you were out doing some research. His father essentially says, maybe I'll just take a day off and I'll just write it. I probably need to order a couple more keyboards. So it's pretty cool. You could tell like he could do all of these things in superhuman time. So she asks the son how he's doing. He's super happy. He's super excited. And he's like, fine, I finally think I'm getting my superpowers. And her mom kind of just brushes it off and is like, oh, that's nice. Can you just pass the potatoes? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Mark trying to test out his abilities. He says his reflexes are really good, but he wonders if he can fly. But he's not sure if he has invulnerability yet. let me just try. So he jumps off and he's like, what the heck? He starts floating. Whoa, too cool. He's starting to fly. You jump into this next scene where there's a couple of robbers who just robbed the diamond shop. And you see this guy also encapsulated by sand. So they're running away. And in the next scene, you see, I guess, Mark essentially dressed up in this funky looking costume, and he's starting to fight these monsters. After he defeats them, you see his dad kind of on the side leaning against the wall saying, hey, how long have you just been doing this? I thought you just got your powers a week ago. And he puts his mask down and he's like, oh, it's actually been 2 weeks. I'm still getting the hang of it. His dad says he looks ridiculous. Let me just take you to a place where this guy can help you out. Where he brings him is to his friend named Art Rosenbaum, who's a tailor by day, but is a superhero costume maker by night. So he sees Mark and gives him his actually dad's old costume, which is yellow and orange, is a little bit too bright. He's not very fond of these colors, but he's wondering why these discs are here also. Originally, his father was thought to have some solar powered energy, so this was supposed to help capture that energy. Soon after, the father hears something going on and he just like flashes out of the tailor. Next scene, you see Art and Mark just talking about like what his costume is. So I think he wanted something quote unquote iconic. But the thing is, every superhero wants something iconic. But how do we make it specifically for Mark? Art asks Mark if he has a name already, because that'll help him at least design a costume. He's not sure about it yet. Art is like, next time you come back, let me know a couple names and I'll be able to help you out. Next day, Mark's in class, finishing his work. His teacher essentially is like, all right, class is almost done. I know you guys still have a couple more things to do. Why don't you just take it home and finish it up and bring it back tomorrow? He holds back one of the students. As Mark walks into the hallway, there's this bully who essentially bullying this guy named Steve White, who is his locker mate. Steve is like, hey, why don't you just leave me alone? And Mark overhears this and kind of starts to step in. And he's like, why don't you listen to the guy, just leave him alone? What are you trying to prove? The bully comes back and is like, do you feel like you're left out or something? Let me feel like you're included. So he starts pushing Mark. And in retaliation, Mark uses his superpowers, probably not to his full strength, but he pushes him up against the lockers and the lockers just crunch. You see the stars around his head and you see one of the teachers come out and says, what is going on here? Mark is initially sent to Principal Winslow, and essentially he's like, Mark, you haven't had any issues in this school. What's going on here? What his response is don't worry about me. I'm going to keep my head in the books. It's just that I don't like seeing kids get picked on. The principal totally understands and like he condones that, hey, we need to punish these guys, but it shouldn't be by you. You should call a teacher or somebody to help. You shouldn't step in yourself. And he essentially says, the boy was almost twice your size. It's not your responsibility to protect the other kids here. You're not invincible, you know. Right then and there, you see Mark have like that light bulb above his head where he's like, all right, this is probably going to be my name. In the next scene, you see another robbery of a bank. These guys kind of come out with their guns, start pushing people, and they run into this alleyway. One of the guys that's part of their group runs back towards them and they're like, what are you doing, man? And then so they run into the alleyway and they see Mark, aka Invincible, holding up their getaway van and says, drop it, freak, or we'll blow you away. And then Mark says, I wouldn't try that. I'm invincible. And that's essentially how this ends. What a very cool first appearance of Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. You could see that this type of book actually had everything that you would want in a very first appearance. You see someone who is just getting their powers, just figuring out who they are, a little bit about their background, and you kind of get his somewhat with great power comes great responsibility moment where he says he wants to protect people from not getting picked on, and the principal is like, well, you're not invincible. Well, he basically used that as his motivation and his name to be able to protect those around him. You get a little bit about a background about his father, Omni-Man. You could tell from this is made for TV. I think with Robert Kirkman's success with Walking Dead, this is a great opportunity to bring in a superhero who has his own background and now has a great show. If you're interested in reading this book as well as issue 2 and so on and so forth, I definitely recommend to check it out on Comixology. And there's other apps, library apps out there that may have this book that you might be able to read it from. I don't personally have this in my collection. I think it'll be a modern age grail for some folks. Please definitely leave in the comment section below who is your favorite new, image or any independent superhero character, because I want to read about more characters myself, especially if they have new and exciting backgrounds. So if you like this video, please don't forget to click that thumbs up button, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you're notified of when I come out with new content. From my comic journey to yours, make it your own. Thanks all. Bye.